Hey buns, or should I say, what's up? Time is money, friend. Have I seen you around here before? Undermine. It's Undermine patch. It's finally really, I won't do this for the whole video, don't worry. Patch 11.1 is here and it is goblin up my time. I have had a blast in this patch so far and there's just so much I want to talk about. Story, the raid, the characters, the vibe, the world building, the city that is filled with garbage. Like, it is stinky, it is sleazy, it is so disgusting. It's fantastic. So first, let's start with the story. Obviously, this is going to be big on spoilers, but doesn't take too long to get through this story. So do that first, then come back here, or you can skip this section using the video chapters. I do recommend that you do the goblin starter quests before Undermine if you can, because they're really funny. They are snappy, and it will introduce you to the Bilgewater cartel, and it will show you what a huge piece of shit Gallywix is. It's gonna get you ready to kick his butt. But he's also a very well-written character, so you should also consider reading Gallywix's short story that's called Trade Secrets of a Trade Prince. It is a very fun read. Anyway, the opening cutscene for Undermine was fire, because with very little words, it accomplishes a whole lot and establishes this suffocating tension in the room, which is exactly what we need at the start of a story. Gallywix is intimidating the frankly terrified cartel leaders, and if you've ever played WoW before, you probably remember Noggin Fogger from Gadgetzan, but you might also recall that he was present at the Dalaran crash site helping survivors. This isn't a bad person, but it's clear that since even he can't bring himself to stand up for Laszlo, that he is clearly under extreme psychological duress. That introduces kind of this extra mystery. When Laszlo asked for the New Deal, this is probably a stretch, but I wonder if it was subtle reference to the New Deal from American history that was supposed to be aimed at curbing corporate greed and preventing exploitation. But whether or not it was deliberate nod to that, I mean, it's Undermine. Nobody represents greed and exploitation better than Gallywix. And when a goblin dared to ask for fair conditions, you could feel the overwhelming pressure in the room, while one by one the trade princes buckle under that pressure, and Laszlo is left to take the fall by being executed on the spot. I couldn't believe that. I was shocked. Like everyone else there who runs out the room screaming, probably not expecting him to go that far, because Gallywix has always been a ruthless bastard, but like this felt like a whole new level of aggression and brutality. Like something had pushed him to become even worse than he already was, and then in walks Zalatath, like at the perfect moment where we see where that new pressure is coming from, because the insane dynamic power shift when she showed up was so crazy. Like, I think this cutscene did an amazing job at showing all the power dynamics at play here, because she's like, oh, I see you're already making good use of the black blood. I was like, hey, I can see you're screwing around, where's my money, right? Or whatever thing I asked of you. Think like, at the time we don't know what she's asking, but we do know Gallywix absolutely would use whatever she wants for his own purposes. Like, if he can get away with it, if anybody in this world would try to skim off the top of what he owed Zalatath, it would be him. So that sets this up to be a very interesting dynamic from the first cutscene. Now, when you go through the campaign quests, do it on a goblin if you can, because there's some fun goblin specific dialogue there. Like, for example, I was able to ask Renzik why he joined the Alliance as a goblin. I'm like, hey Renzik, seems like you're turning your back on us goblins. And he said, Alliance did right by me. Horde did right by you. Don't make this a thing. That response felt so natural and real. Like, this kind of writing just makes NPCs feel like actual people that have their own lives and motivations instead of just being quest givers. Like, so what? I joined the Alliance. By the way, I found out that if you're a gnome, the goblins will leave their regular pathing to come up to you and insult you for being a gnome, because the gnomes and goblins have had this long-standing engineering rivalry that goes way back to the beginning of WoW. Do talk to the other NPCs when you do quests also, because there's extra flavor text that I didn't even notice on my first playthrough the story. Like at the goblin toll booth at the very first quest, you could be like, oh, I'm Gallywix's second cousin actually, so I should get in the VIP lane. There's a lot of VA while you're going through the quests, which is really fun. I like how a lot of the world building happens in a way that doesn't interfere with me playing the game and doing combat.
You pulled it off, Bundy. I didn't do this. The people did.
There was a talk to 3 NPCs quest at the beginning, and I actually learned 3 different things about Undermine. First one told me that someone ordered a hole in the wall, but we don't know who. Then that the southern work sites, people are disappearing there. Then that the Dark Fuse are the security and overseers that push everyone around. And if you want to know more about those 3 workers, that is, their manager tells you, like how Trella is behind on rent. He's like, what do you want to talk about? I'd much rather chat than work. You know what I mean? The character writing was really on point throughout. Before you even get to Undermine itself, they do a really good job of preparing you for how screwed up it is going to be, because it's like, you know it's bad when a Venture Co. employee is the one who's the whistleblower for this situation. Like, do you know anything about the Venture Co? The Venture Co are these crazy goblins that have been tearing up Ashenvale, they've been tearing up Stranglethorn, every forest that you can think of. They're the ones. Anytime there's an ecological crisis, it's the Venture Co that paid for it, okay? So it's bad when the Venture Co is like, someone who works for the Venture Co is like, hey, this is really bad. This has to stop. When the horrible accident at the pump station is discovered, one of the goblins is tending to her friend's remains, saying, Undermine is terrible. We thought we had a great opportunity to get out, but they're dead. And Gazlo refuses to even go. He's like, oh no, you've got business in Undermine. I'm not ever going back there. He said, any goblin who wants a better world has already left Undermine. Like, so you feel like it's hopeless? It is rough as hell. You haven't even got there yet. Renzik, unfortunately, did not have any VA present in the game, but he had some pretty hard-hitting lines like, it's their home. They shouldn't have to leave. And when Gazlo says, I'm not going there to start a war, Renzik says, don't worry, that's my job. Which is so cool. This is so cool. When Monty finds out what had happened lately, he says, Undermine swallows everything that's good. Now it's got Laszlo. When Monty asks, how could Gallywix do this? Renzik says, because no one stopped him. That's the ugly truth. You know, it's a simple answer, but he really cut to the quick with that. Meeting Revelgaz was pretty refreshing because he's a pirate goblin trade prince, and they had to strike a balance between a guy who's a pretty shady criminal, but still a guy you can work with, right? Like, if you've done the quests in Booty Bay, you know, they had you eliminating rivals, moving contraband, like counterfeiting goods and stuff. Like, you're a fixer for the Blackwater Underground. And he's like, loose lips sink ships in Undermine. You want something, you give something. Nothing is free in Undermine, right? He's such a questionable character, and I loved it because when everybody is agreeable and friendly and reasonable all the time, it's boring and predictable. And thankfully, they did a good job of showing like the cool factor that roguish characters can have, while, you know, staying true to what's charming about goblins, or ever was, while also telling a story that criticizes unchecked greed and corruption, because most of the goblins, they're just in it for the hustle. But Gallywix is a monster, and at no point did I feel like the story was being hypocritical of itself. I was so worried that they were going to make goblins boring. They really could have whitewashed everything that the Venture Co ever did. Oh, everyone's just misunderstood. But no, like, they showed a realistic spectrum where some of them want to fight for a better world, like Renzik. Some of them gave up, like Monty. Some of them try to work the system, like Revelgaz does, and some of them are the system, like Gallywix. So not every character has to be a hero all the way through, or a villain. And actually at the end, which I'm going to talk about in a second, that's brought up. Monty says that Renzik was a hero, and Shaw says, well, you don't get a nickname like the Shiv for doing good deeds. I thought that was such a nice reminder that, like, yeah, he was still a rogue. He still did some questionable stuff, but at the same time, he had a good heart, and he believed in a better world. It was really nice. I'll talk about more about Renzik in a minute, but when you meet Noggenfogger and he's like, can't talk, they'll know that you're visiting me on my birthday. Like, I felt like I was in a gangster movie for real. Like, it was so shady. Like, by the way, as a goblin in that area, I could buy a special item that let me lean. It gave me a new emote when I use it. That's crazy. I've never seen anything like that in the game before. I hope it's the start of a new trend. But I also have to say that Oh my god, Alaria getting stopped by customs. Slam Central Station was such a hilarious clash of worlds. It's like, okay, this is Alaria Windrunner, the void-blessed legendary ranger of Quel'Thalas, getting stopped by a little goblin who's like, rules are rules, buddy. Anything that magical needs paperwork submitted in advance. Like, it's like she's trying to board a flight with too much shampoo in her carry-on, you know? You can threaten them or you can bribe them to leave. And it's funny because the goblins are not just comic relief. Like, their world has a consistent logic that makes it feel like a real place. They have this obsession with loopholes and bureaucracy and profit, and it's not just a punchline. That is how their world works. And that's why it's so funny when there's a clash of worlds, like when two worlds collide, like they did here. That's world building done right. Like in Dornegal, you can now find Norb, the insurance adjuster, who's like, yeah, Dornegal's definitely going to pay for this. Our drill operator had to swerve to avoid that giant underground tunnel thing, bent half the blades out of shape and made him spill his latte. The latte's the more expensive claim, actually. I actually shed a tear at the end of this story whenever you stand on the rooftop and you scatter Renzik's ashes across the city that he loves so much, because, man, after everything that had happened, you look at this city and it's like filled with trash, right? It's gross. It's dinky as hell. It's janky. It's not perfect at all. And yet you know how much it meant to Renzik, and you know like how beautiful it was to him. And through that, it becomes beautiful in a new light. And even Monty's like, wow, it seems somehow brighter up here for you. Oh man, I'm getting choked up again. It really hit me. I can't believe that. Are we talking about World of Warcraft? Yes, it really did. I thought it was a beautiful send-off. I don't know, it made me think about like home and what love is. Love being a perspective that makes you see even the most grimy thing in a fresh light, in a kinder light. Let's talk about the raid. So I did the raid with my guild only buns, and it is so much fun. Like, it is pure goblin chaos like we all hoped it would be. You can get hit by a car and die. Hooray! I know it's not a normal thing to say out loud, but still. Let me ask you something. If you haven't done the raid yet, have you ever played Katamari Damacy? Well, now you can. In the raid, there is like roly ball garbage pickup mechanic during one of the fights, which is really innovative and fun. One of the fights actually reminded me of a raid from FF14 Heavensward called Breath of the Creator, where we fought a goblin named Lamebrick's Strikebox. Here in Undermine, we fight the goblin Sprocketmonger Lockenstock. And it's felt very similar. Another fight reminded me of Genshin Impact, actually another game I play, because you're actually fighting a slot machine, which is the same thing you do in Genshin Impact. Jokes aside, you pick up tokens and you put them in, and it gives you the next mechanic, which is really cool. There's this two-headed ogre that has different mechanics depending on what side of the room he's on, and he takes out his guns and he's like but with two heads doing that. And of course, Gallywix. So I fought Gallywix in story mode because I didn't have time to fight Gallywix in normal mode whenever my guild was doing it, because I had to go. But I was able to do it in story mode, which is super cool. Thank you, Blizzard, for adding story mode so I can finish the story and like see all those cutscenes and get that emotional impact without having to go into the raid for that. That was amazing. Gallywix, obviously, I wanted to kill ever since he stole my life savings from me in Kazan, but I didn't find it on his corpse. So I guess I gotta keep looking for that. And of course, Gallywix, if that was his corpse, I don't know. I think it's a little suspicious. I feel like maybe he's not really dead. He's probably dead. But what if, not as definitive as I think probably should have been if they don't plan on bringing him back and he's actually dead. Could have made it a little bit more definitive. Like, it's implied that it's gruesome, his death, when he's like, stuff falls on him, but I don't know. I did get some sick weapons in Undermine, like this very safe looking sword, this chainsaw type thing, a lit bomb, and a crosswalk sign you can actually use. The Hot Rod is a fast car. It's fast. It's fun. I mean, I guess I'm not too hard to please, but I wish I could take it outside Undermine. Can you imagine how cool it would be to be like drifting down the mountain passes in Pandaria like you're in Initial D? The weeklies for your rep are actually pretty good. It's just playing GTA and digging through trash, which is shit I've been doing since 2004 when San Andreas came out. I do keep my room cleaner now, though. It's totally not just pushed off camera stuff. Yeah, it's clean. There are 2 new delves, which you can now do with Tank Brand, who has actually been nerfed quite a lot since release. So if you have done these with Tank Brand since the changes, please let me know in the comments how that has been for you. In terms of the delves themselves, Side Street Sluice, I thought the layout was pretty confusing at first, but I thought it was a nice change of pace from just a linear delve. I'm glad they're experimenting with that, and it did make sense considering the way buildings are vertical and multi-layered in Undermine. It's pretty cool, though. I've heard that the buildings of Undermine are a little frustrating for people who play giant characters like Taran. How are y'all doing? Are you good? Excavation Site 9. I really loved. I thought the atmosphere felt alien and really creepy, gooey vibe was awesome. Except the final boss of that one that I fought in one of the versions was boring. His name was Craggle Fritz Brains, and he does like 3 abilities, and if you interrupt the cast, he does basically nothing. Like, it was super snooze. I did that solo as a healer with Tank Brand. Lately, I have been trying out Bear Tank, though, and that has made solo delves super easy. Even while under-geared, I could easily solo tier 11s. Barely an inconvenience. Overall, I am delighted to see that the broader community has felt the same feelings that I felt about Undermine in terms of the story, the characters, and the world. From this post, I love being called Champ by Gazlo. Champion? Champ? Yes, little green bro, I'll do anything for you. So many beautiful little details all over the zone. It's clear a lot of love was put into the design of the zone's vibes. One of the tunnels at the station has a sign saying it was closed off because the vibes were off. This is everything I've always loved about WoW Goblin shenanigans. Talking to the owner of the Incontinental Inn and him realizing what the name means killed me. I haven't laughed at a WoW joke in so long. I will say that some of this felt painfully real as a person living in the US in 2025. Like, hearing Galliwick say, "You better work late, work holidays." Like, people in my chat were like, is this America? Your vacation request is denied and you're fired for asking. Like, dude, I think I worked there. Definitely go and do the side quests. Do them, like the one with the benevolent landlord who's like, dead body in the common areas. That's a write-up. There's a lot to explore. Take your time, talk to NPCs, look around. When you go into a building, nose around, snoop a little bit and see what you find. You'll definitely, they have packed this thing to the brim with like fun stuff, world building stuff. I think that the WoW team is really investing. I'm a goblin brain. They're investing big time in this expansion. And I'm all in. I mean, Undermine's a gold mine. I feel like I can't wait to see what other deals they got. Look, we got to work on the accent a little bit. It's not perfect. Okay, I'm learning. It's okay, but I've had a lot of fun, as you can probably tell. Man, I just feel so enthused. I feel like energized by this patch, and I'm just so excited to see what's coming next, because I have a lot of faith in the team. Like, they have earned my trust back, and I think that you'll have fun if you haven't spent a lot of time in Undermine yet. So let me know what you thought about Undermine in the comments section of this video. I'd love to hear from you. How have delves been going? How's the raid been going? Have you gone through Undermine as a goblin, or are you going through as a Taran, barely squeezing yourself through doorways? How has that been? Or are you a gnome getting yelled at and insulted by the people? Let me know in the comment section down below, and thank you so much for watching. If you want to support this video and the work that I do here, you can support for free by leaving a comment, clicking the subscribe button, or by going to my twitch.tv/ZeplaHQ and dropping a sub there. You can sub for free with Amazon Prime, and you can also subscribe on Patreon if you want to support me over there too. Thank you to my Patreon bun-buns who make this all possible, and to those who subscribe at the highest tier. That is Chris and Pete Wilson. Thank y'all for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye.